So hey guys, welcome. Troy Haynes here from I'm Connected. Really stoked to be here with you, sharing this masterclass around becoming exponential. I feel like this is some really cool information that you may not get anywhere else, and I'm excited to be able to present it with you. Yeah, I hope you vibe with it. My goal for today really is to help give you a deep understanding of who you are. And I felt sense that you actually are exponential. You have the potential to be exponential, and a clear understanding of the things that are in the way for most of us, not just you, but most of humanity, and how we're actually living and what we can do about that. And so what makes this different? I've spent the last 4 years working closely with transformative technologies. It's an ecosystem, a global ecosystem, a community of entrepreneurs and innovators that are building technologies, the human-centered technologies that support emotional well-being and human thriving. And so I head up Australasia for transformative technology off the back of almost like a decade of work in the startup innovation space within regional Queensland, but then broader Queensland and Australia. And so really excited to be able to sort of share some of the technologies, what's emerging, and what I see is a way forward for us. Like I mentioned, if you can, do your best to put your phones on silent, be here as present as you can. Like, our presence is such a gift. It is the gift. They call it the present. And, you'll get bulk out of this if you are just take this hour. I'll do our best to make sure that I get you out on time, finished at 2:30. So yeah, if you can, do your best just to be here with me. And then, like I said, I'll leave time, questions, Q&A to at the end. We'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. So let's get into it. So who am I? Like, on one level, like for me, I grew up with an innate sense of suffering. I'm a highly sensitive person, and it was a journey for me to really understand who I was in this world, and it put me on a personal development path early. I started learning around aspects of the mind and consciousness, practicing meditation. And for the last 20 years, I've had a meditation practice, and I've been exploring and researching, what is consciousness? Who am I, and who are we? Like, asking those sorts of questions. I'm also the founder of I Am Connected, which is a biohacking and consciousness hacking platform and community. I'm considered chief consciousness hacker. Like I mentioned, I've done a significant amount of work working with entrepreneurs and innovators to build these human-centered technologies across Australia, but then also globally. A mentor for the transformative technology, the academy that we ran globally. A decade experience of leadership in the startup and innovation space. Founder of The Space, a startup incubator, where we help people to commercialize ideas. And I consider myself a consciousness guide with 20 years of experience in exploring this topic of what is consciousness. So that's on one level. I consider who I am. I'm this story, and I'm separate from you. But then on another level, I have access to a mind. That mind is multifaceted. I've learned it's actually multifaceted. It's not just one voice. There's many parts. They exist virtually, and they are only really accessible to me. I have access to them through thoughts and through emotions. I have access to a body, and that body is made up of many individual biological life forms. Estimates put it at around 30 trillion individual cells. And I'm conscious that I am conscious. I have insights and intuition which guide me. And I'm intricately connected to all of these things and all there is. and I'm both separate and everything. And in my experience, that if we, for the most part, identified just with this narrative on the left, like the story, in isolation to that on the right, it's a very limited way to experience ourselves. And in fact, I'm not just the narrative, I'm not just the story. I'm so much more. And so who am I really? And that's part of what we're going to discuss today. And then also, who are you? And ultimately, like, why are we here? Like, for me, these are the fundamental questions that until we answer them, we're kind of living in an unconscious state. And I don't mean like here as in on this recording, on this Zoom, I mean like here, like, why are we here? So I want you to feel into that and explore and ideally relax your critical mind and allow me to explore a hypothesis with you over the next 20 minutes or so. Because whilst we don't really know how everything started, one of the most popular theories is that 13.8 billion years ago, the universe started in a singularity, which is an infinitesimal point, which in fractions of a second exploded in a big bang. And since then, the building blocks for life and eventually life itself have been evolving. Some of us here would be familiar with the concept of Moore's law and how technology is evolving up an exponential curve at a faster and faster rate. Perhaps life itself has also been following a similar exponential curve, and presently humanity is the most evolved technology on the planet from this initial point of the Big Bang up to this point here, where we have modern humans. And so what does that mean? Well, we've only been in this form, this Homo sapien form, for 300,000 years, which is 0.002% of a 13.8 billion year evolution until this point. We are presently the most evolved technology on the planet, but as life continues to evolve up this exponential curve, should we consider that perhaps being human is not the end game for life and evolution itself? And should we also consider that if at one point we were all connected to everything, that in some ways we still are? And so as we answer that question, who are you? Who am I? Sure, I'm Troy, a consciousness hacker, biohacker, founder of a company. I am that. And you are, Candace, the software engineer, and Bill, the marketing executive. Yes, that, but also so much more. And whilst we feel separate, in many ways, we are actually connected. And as we continue to evolve up this exponential curve, what might that mean for us? Samil Ismail, the former CEO of Singularity University, gives an example of when photography went exponential. Because back in the day, when I was a teenager, it used to be that you had to wait weeks or months to see the photos that you had taken on your camera. Then along comes digital photography. And now with the devices in our pockets, we can take thousands of images. We can edit them instantly, add filters up. We can share them with the world, and even turn them into NFTs in minutes. And so Salim's point was that innovation in photography truly went exponential, which means like innovation evolved at a faster and faster rate when it went digital. And so, our world is becoming increasingly more digital. Humanity is becoming increasingly more digital. This was a photo from Mark Zuckerberg's Metaverse launch. Investment into wearable devices, the brain-computer interfaces, virtual worlds, and the metaverse is accelerating. Mark Zuckerberg rightly pointed out that we experience reality in 3D, not 2D, and that the metaverse is the future. Most of the top market cap companies in the world are investing heavily into integrating with digital experiences. As we become increasingly more digital, like photography, perhaps we are gearing up for humanity to also become exponential. Wow. Like, can you imagine what that might look like? Innovation in the human experience accelerating at a faster and faster rate. Can I get a shout out if you find that exciting or scary or both? VR, yeah, you can see your VR kit there. But is this the only way where we integrate with technology? My awareness is that there's two paths moving forward. There's the gray path where we integrate with technology. And as we approach this technological singularity, where technology intelligence surpasses ours and takes us into exponential, what it means to actually truly be exponential. That is one path, but then there's the other path, which is more of the pink path, where we stay organic and we use technology to help us become exponential in our organic form. And so regardless of which path you are drawn to, I feel like the most important work for now remains the same. And that's elevating human consciousness. If the universe did start as a unified point that exploded in fractions of a second, and life has been evolving up this exponential curve for the past 13.8 billion years, if we have only been in this Homo sapien form for 300,000 years, which is 0.002% of the 13.8 billion year evolution, it might mean that technology is set to accelerate our evolution. We need humanity to be ready for this acceleration that is coming. For millions of years, early humans and modern humans have used tools and technologies to extend our abilities. Our tools and technologies are becoming increasingly more sophisticated in extending our abilities. And this is where we play. I'm Connected sits at the intersection between technology, humanity, and consciousness, a biohacking and consciousness hacking platform, priming humanity to be ready to go exponential, whichever path you choose. But the thing is, technology is coming. And so unless we do this work, suffering is going to continue. For the past 4 years, I've been actively involved, like I mentioned, in the transformative technology movement or the community. We support entrepreneurs and innovators to build human-centered technology that support emotional well-being and human thriving. We consider well-being to be a spectrum from mental health, where a lot of people are at the moment, to well-being, but well-being is not the end game, into human performance, human potential, and then potential beyond human. And so whilst there are rising mental health concerns that are forcing people to look interoceptively, that's a good thing, because our opportunity doesn't end at well-being. We have so much more, the potential for so much more. We are evolving. And and we are limited largely by our conditioning. So, but the problem, the main problem is that we've forgotten who we are. We've misidentified ourselves with the the narrative that's in our head, and that's causing a global mental health crisis. We can't stop thinking. And that narrative is easily manipulated, and so we struggle to know what the truth is. We have unresolved emotional wounds from our adolescence, which is contracting our potential. These form patterns which keep us stuck in loops. And in many cases, some of these emotional traumas are manifesting themselves as physical manifestations within the body. Our ego has evolved to protect us, but it's constantly judging others and ourselves. But in doing so, it keeps us stuck in the mind and reinforces the separation. Our beliefs reinforce the cage that we find ourselves stuck in. And we're all here for a unique purpose, but most are disconnected from what that is. And they don't know how to find it, which is causing suffering. So we tend to medicate ourselves. And like I said, we're moving into this era of hyper acceleration and change. And unless we heal ourselves and remember who we are, life is likely to become too much. And so this is why, for me, like the title of this program is called Becoming Exponential, because it's really preparing ourselves to become exponential. Technology doesn't have to be like an enemy or a bad thing. Technology can help us to evolve. And then there comes a point where we get to choose, which path do we want to follow? Do we want to move into technology, or do we want to stay in this organic state of being? And so we explore like how we do this with our Becoming Exponential program is really focusing on remembering who we are, like the I am. Like as for any of those that know meditation, when you sit and meditate, you learn to build a relationship with the narrative, with the thoughts and the emotions. And in that, it creates a separation, and you realize that I'm not actually those thoughts and emotions. And so if I'm not those thoughts and emotions, then who am I? And then we look at the body, like 30 plus trillion cells, individual life forms working without any direction, like working indirectly from me. It's like, am I doing that? I'm not doing that. And so who am I? And so it's that exploration of who are we? If I'm not that narrative, if I'm not the story, that conditioned story of around who I thought I was, and I'm not this body, well, then who am I? And this is the question that we need to answer. And along that path of discovery is we realize that we need to heal, like from depending on where we enter into this reality. I feel like my awareness is that we had exponential potential, and depending on who we were born to and where we were born, our life experiences start shutting down that potential. We all have emotional wounds that we carry, which is unresolved emotional trauma, like peak emotional experiences that we didn't have the social and emotional skills to be able to process. And so we contract that experience in, and the mind then compartmentalizes it. And so what we learn here from the work of spiritual teachers like Eckhart Tolle and Richard Schwartz from Internal Family Systems is that these and particularly Richard Schwartz's work, is that these actually form parts of our psyche that can then take over the body and mind, take over through thought and through emotion. And so as we learn to identify and heal these peak emotional experiences, which is like processing or releasing that contracted energy, then those patterns which those emotional wounds form are released, and essentially it gives us more choice. And so as we do that, like we hear a lot about the present moment, the power of the present moment, but how do we effectively be in the present moment? And so it's exploring that, building a relationship with the present moment. We learn that, and no one's taught us how to effectively do this. So as we through meditation, you build a relationship with the narrative, the mind, the thoughts and emotions, and in that we move more into a stillness. And so through that stillness, we feel more the aliveness, which is in the present moment. One thing that's interesting, as in some of the work that we've been doing in terms of healing, is that when we heal some of these unresolved, because we all have emotional trauma and emotional baggage that we've pushed down, and as we push it down, we resist feeling it because it's uncomfortable, and at the time we didn't have the skills to be able to process it, and so we resist feeling it, we push it down. But in resisting feeling it, we resist feeling altogether. But as we learn to process these unresolved trauma, we learn how to feel again. And in that, we begin to feel the energy that's all around us, that's in us, that is us. That's arising in the present moment. And so we learn like how to access the present moment, the stillness, the inner peace that comes from being just present, not worrying about the past or fearful or ruminating over the past or fearful of the future. And so we use different techniques like nature and meditation and healing to bring us more into the present moment. And so that we can really connect with the seed of potential that we all have within. And as we explore that I am question, that is not the conditioned narrative, and the more time we spend in the stillness, the more we tune into that internal voice, the uniqueness, the seed of potential that we all have within, like a tree grows into a tree. We are here for a purpose, and you can't think your way to your purpose. And so we learn to find that in the stillness. And so a key part of this is learning to observe the narrative, observe where we contract. And so as when we heal, we realize that, and so what we're learning to do through the platform we've developed, I Am Connected, is we log our contractions. And so where we feel ourselves get triggered throughout the day, or where we feel ourselves shy away from a situation, or where we feel a sudden rush of emotion, it's indicative, it's pointing to a wound. And so we learn to observe, to be the observer. And so where we've contracted, we learn to expand. And so that at the same time, learning to relate to the present moment and the seed of potential that we all have within. And so the 6 key modules that we consider like a core as part of, of becoming exponential, exploring that I am, that path back to wholeness, is meditation. It's building a relationship with the narrative. It's understanding how we can move through the different brainwave states to experience and access different things. For the most part, the mind is very active in this high beta brainwave state. And so for the most part, the current human experience is really largely confined to an overactive mind. And so through meditation, we learn to build a relationship with that, but then also learning to access these other altered states. Alpha, which is more of a flow-like state. Theta, which is really an internal stillness where we can hear that internal voice, a greater sense of intuition, knowing, no mind. And then delta is really like a profound internal stillness where we start to lose the separate self and really connect into a greater sense of connection to wholeness. And so we miss a lot of this experience when we're over-identified with just this busy beta brainwave state. And interestingly, we cycle through the same brainwave states through the sleep state as we do as in the wake state. And so we learn how to cycle through, optimize the different stages of sleep by understanding the different brainwave states as well. And so we use technology to help us measure this. One example is the Muse meditation device, a neurofeedback device. It helps us to understand what's actually happening inside, what brain frequency we're in, and how do we consciously build a relationship with that so that we can optimize for the different brainwave states. And then we explore sleep and recovery. One thing we see about sleep is that a lot of dysfunction shows up in our sleep state. We can pretend, or like we, for the most part, go about our day and we do the best we can in our waking state. But when one thing we can't hide from is ourself in our sleep state. We see a lot of dysfunction shows up in our sleep, and by dysfunction is unresolved trauma. It's patterns that we find ourselves in and that are unsupportive for what it is that we're doing. It's an overactive mind. And so what we do is we can measure this as well. And by measuring it, we're able to identify where we're stuck. Because a lot of people are having, significant amounts of problems with sleep. And ineffective sleep leads to ineffective recovery, which is shortening our life experience. And so this is just an example of, sleep cycles, how we cycle through the different brainwave states from awake down into that delta, deep dreamless sleep. This is really important for regeneration, and then up into REM for memory consolidation. Interesting though, like just having our sleep as baseline good sleep is just the beginning, and then we can optimize for there. Like there's so much to be said for this hypnagogic state, which is on the brink of awake and asleep, for insight. Some of the greatest inventions in the world and discoveries in the world have come from awareness, like insight that have arisen in this state here. And so not unlike the waking state, we learn how to hack our state for different outcomes, for whether it's creativity, whether it's flow, whether it's connection to self, whether it's purpose, whether it's creatively looking for new ideas and discoveries. And then also, lucid dreamings and other aspects, like becoming lucid when you're in that sleep state, is a means to explore beyond the barrier of unconsciousness. And so there's a lot that can be happening that we can do within sleep, which is beyond just sleeping. But first step is to help people to get effective sleep. And so we use like an Oura ring to track that. And then patterns, like exploring patterns, like I mentioned before. One thing I have through my research, following some of the great teachers, and Richard Schwartz is one from Internal Family Systems. And what we learn is that it's not actually one ego, that at each experience that we have as we've evolved until this point now, forms a voice. And those he calls them parts. They're parts of us, parts of our psyche. And until we build a relationship with them, then they're operating unconsciously and pulling our attention, influencing our behaviors. And so what we do is to learn to build a relationship with these parts, and we can heal these parts. And he talks about, how when they're healed, we then integrate them back into our experience. Because it's like the I am, the aware presence, that which is able to observe, is in the body. And if you would have, if you, as someone that's tried to experience meditation, or someone that's experienced meditation, you would see that you can hold your attention still, and then you get drawn into a story or a thought, and then into another one, and then you continually catch yourself and you bring your attention back. And so the I am, the conscious presence, is constantly fighting for control over our attention, over our psyche, as are these parts here. And so one of the key things that we do to be able to be more present, be more in ourself, And find peace is build a relationship with the parts, these parts that have been traumatized. He considers that there's three key parts. There's exiles. These are the ones that experience significant trauma. Then there's protector parts, those that have been established to ensure that that's safe. And then there's managers, those, and these all have voices. And there's thousands of parts, and even the parts have parts. And so we learn to build a relationship with those. And then forgiveness is another key part of it, of becoming exponential. Like, until we're able to effectively forgive, not ourselves and others, well, then we feed the narrative with the story. We're caught in the story. And forgiveness is not necessarily for the other person or the other people. It's really for ourselves, so that we are no longer a victim and no longer caught in that pattern of thinking. And so having an effective forgiveness practice, learning how to forgive, that brings us back to, the present moment, but then it also allows us to expand where we've contracted into that story. And so wherever we're holding on to something, resentment, we're limiting our potential. And so then beliefs, like how beliefs filter our reality. And what we see a lot is that people that are clients that are aspiring to some goal, but they have incongruent beliefs. Their beliefs don't support the achievement of that goal. And so then we look at, well, what are beliefs? And what we see is that a lot of beliefs are really based on opinion, and these opinions have been handed down. Some beliefs are loosely based on fact, but even fact is malleable. It changes over time. And so what we see is that essentially beliefs are what you want them to be. And what we see through understanding neuroscience is that the reticular activating system is something that we can influence, and what we choose to believe and what we put our attention to influences what we see through our filter. A cognitive scientist, Donald Hoffman, his research shows that our brains have evolved for survival, not the truth, and our senses do not report objective reality and do not tell us the truth. And what we see is what we've been conditioned to see. And so here we learn to hack what we can see in our reality, because as you're likely aware, what we are consciously aware of is only a fraction of what we're unconsciously, the data that we're streaming. And so our beliefs are a gateway to that. Are they congruent with what it is that you're looking to express in your reality? And in an infinite reality, like, we're limited then only by our beliefs. And then, habits. Here we, again, we see here, as part of this exponential model, we learn to observe both the waking and sleep states and optimize those, building relationships with the mind, building awareness around optimizing sleep and exploring in sleep. We're healing by understanding our patterns, where we've contracted into an experience in the past, which is then impacting on us by causing a pattern of thoughts, emotions, behavior now. So we're learning to heal those so that we can expand more into our potential. Part of that is also forgiveness, all of which is allowing us to spend more time in the present moment, ensuring our beliefs are aligned to what it is that we are, what is that internal voice, that seed saying. The more time we spend in the stillness, the more time we spend outside of the mind, the more time we are led through inspired thoughts. Like for me, my meditation practice is an hour a day, and it really is just plugging into source, plugging into the supreme intelligence, and then outside of that narrative, and then being led, like, I am here for a reason, as are you. And it's like, if you're constantly in the mind, well, then you can't hear what that reason is. You can't, it's hard to relate to it. And so, yeah, so we build the habits to support us to be more of that seed of potential. But then at the same time, we build the habits to become the realization of what that seed of potential is. And so as we learn to tune in and hear that voice, it's like, well, who has already achieved what it is that you want to achieve, and what habits do they have, and what do they believe? And so we look at in all of this, like paradigm shifting tools, like what tools do we use to help shift our beliefs? And we call them paradigm shifting tools. Pattern breaking tools, and this is part of what we use to heal. This program that I'm sharing with you is a pattern breaking tool. It's also a paradigm shifting tool, and it's also a capacity building. And capacity building is the habits, the daily practices that we develop ongoing, that enable us to become what we're here to become. And so I guess my point in this is that we all have the potential to be exponential. And if you're not living exponentially at the moment, which many aren't, there's reasons why. And really, it's an interoceptive look at the mind and building a relationship with the mind, because you have a mind. And like I mentioned at the beginning, whilst I can identify with a story, I'm so much more. I'm a mind, and that mind has multitude of different parts, and so it's learning to build a relationship with those parts. And from there, the thoughts and emotions are the way that I learn to relate to them and heal them and give them the love and compassion and support that they needed at the time when they needed it, but they didn't get it. And then the body, like building a relationship with the body, I'm a hope, like it is hosting me, 30 plus trillion cells. And so becoming more of that, as well as then learning to relate to the story. One of the things, like in all of this, I was learning around is that what is the truth? Like what I see is that, you could be a pro Donald Trump, or you could be pro President Biden, and both people have compelling arguments. And so for me, I see that's not the ultimate truth, because it can change. And an experience in this consciousness hacking space and exploring consciousness for the last 20 years is there's something that ultimately doesn't change, that can't change, and it feels the same all the time. And that is when you spend time in meditation and you can connect to it. And that is the underlying energy that is all around us, that's in us, that is us. And so for me, as a fundamental truth, my connection to that connection to wholeness, is where I place my attention, is connecting to that. And then and basing my sense of self in that, the I am that. And from there, the story can change. I can play with the story, because I'm not the story. I'm not the narrative. I'm not the list on the left-hand side. I am more the list on the right-hand side. And so we've built a platform which integrates this data from this. And so it's a live platform, have active users. We've run programs like this Becoming Exponential program, where you can connect with coaches and mentors. And we use data from wearable technologies to measure and optimize. That is shared with the coach. There's also subjective inputs, which I'll share with you in a moment. So it is this program, it's running around, it's integrating that, the essence of the meditation, the sleep recovery, patterns, forgiveness, beliefs, and habits. But it's focused around I am, shifting your identity or outside of the narrative. I am Jeannie, I am Zenik, I am Tom, into that connection to the underlying wholeness, the energy that is everything. And like I mentioned before, it's what we've discovered is in supporting people to heal, build a relationship with those parts of our psyche and heal them. On the other side of that is the energy. We've just cut ourselves off because we haven't wanted to feel. And so by supporting our members to feel again the uncomfortable feelings at first, but then on the other side of that is the energy, and it's like a sense of wholeness. Like, I don't need anything out there because I already have it. I'm already connected to it. And so that's the journey that we take people on. And so this program is 6 training modules over 6 weeks. One is meditation. So it is learning to build a relationship with the mind, the thoughts, the emotions, the patterns, and the parts of our psyche. Sleep and recovery. So measuring, optimizing sleep, exploring altered states of sleep. But like I mentioned, a lot of dysfunction shows up in sleep, and it's a result of stuff that we haven't effectively processed in our waking state. And so we explore all that. Patterns. So we learn to build a relationship with those parts. Like I mentioned, internal family systems, or Richard Schwartz's work is worth checking out. There's a bunch of books called The Greater Than the Sum of Our Parts. There's No Bad Parts. These are great places to start. You're learning around that. Where Eckhart Tolle talks about one pain body. I'm not sure if any of you have read The Power of Now. He talks about one pain body. Richard Schwartz says, well, there's actually a multitude of different parts, and those parts actually have parts. And the more I looked into this, and more I felt into it, the more I explored and started building a relationship, I identified, wow, there are a multitude of different parts there. And the success that we're having with helping our members to identify, it's like whenever you're thinking or feeling anything, it's actually a part, because you are the I am. You are the consciousness that can realize that you are thinking. And so whenever you're thinking or feeling something, for me now, the practice that we have is like, what am I feeling, and what part of me is feeling that? And so we're looking for them. And then in seeing them, it's like, they're like, oh my God, you see me. And often all they wanted is our love, support, and compassion, because they're alone, they're stuck, they've been carrying this energy, this unresolved emotional charge for however long it's been since the initial core wound. And in that, being seen, it's like that energy can release because they don't have to hold on to it anymore. And healing can occur. And it's just profound how powerful it is. And so forgiveness, like again, so it's no longer that you're a victim, learning how to go through a forgiveness process of ourselves and others, so that we're not feeding the narrative. And part of that then is learning to build a relationship with those parts, both of which is really learning so that we can expand. And so as you come up against like an infinite reality, we're not contracting into ourselves because of our past experiences. We're able to expand into it. And so beliefs, like I mentioned, ensuring that our beliefs are aligned to what is that internal voice that is driving you. We all have it, not the narrative, not those individual voices. This is like a greater sense of knowing. This is the I am, the consciousness. It wants to express itself. We learn to build a relationship with that through the stillness. And as that happens, we need to ensure our beliefs are congruent with that which we are expressing, becoming, and the habits as well. Like the habits need to be aligned. And so we have a weekly meditation practice, which is really learning to build a relationship with the mind. So it's a different module each week, releasing tension, because we have so much unrealized, unresolved tension in the body, that it can be hard to be present and hold our attention when we've got just lots of triggers in our body, and our body is actually holding unresolved energy. And so we learn to release that tension, release emotion as well, energy and motion. And so that as we go about our day and our parts push up against something and trigger an emotional response, a pattern, then we learn to recognize that emotion, build a relationship with that part. But then also, we don't always have time to do that. So we learn how to release emotion by decoupling the emotion from the story, because it's just emotion, energy, and motion. And so by honoring the raw emotion without going into the story, we learn to be effective throughout the day. So it's a really powerful, like as a guy growing up, not being supported to or taught how to effectively process or understand emotion. We just suppress it, we compartmentalize it, we contract it, and that's, we cut off our feeling, to the energy that's all around us, that is us. And so by learning how to process emotion, we're no longer creating that disconnection from source. Right breathing, the breath is a very powerful mechanism for regulating our states, connects us to the autonomic system, so we can regulate our fight or flight, our sympathetic and parasympathetic state really powerfully. And so as a stack, we stack these one on top of each other. And in a practice, like, it becomes a lot easier then to build a relationship with the mind and observe the mind when we haven't got all this unresolved tension, emotion flooding our body, and we using our biology to bring us into a relaxed state. It's easier then to observe the mind. And so we double down on that. And then from there, we set up a peaceful place, which is then setting intentions and using the power of the mind and how beliefs and so forth work to create in this reality. So we take control of our creation process. And so it also includes daily, like, it's such an intimate journey, like really this fast track, it's a fast track to wholeness. And for me, I feel like this is, like I said, critical work, because we're moving into an exponential future. Technology is going to take us there. And if we're not ready for it, we're going to suffer more than we already are. And so it's a very intimate journey. Through the platform, there's daily support through what we call a daily log. And that daily log is, it's really an interoceptive look at the code that you're running in here. And then you're letting somebody on the inside, me in this instance, on the inside. And so we build a very close relationship, and then we both ensuring that the code that you're running is aligned to what it is that you're looking to achieve. And from that, we also identify contractions that we process. And so they're part of our one-on-one weekly healing sessions, where we identify a part that's feeling that, one of those parts, one of those triggers, one of those emotional, where the mind starts looping during the week with it. So we identify what those through the platform, through the daily log, and then we jump into a process, and we essentially connect you to that part, and we help you to build a relationship with that part, and essentially in doing so, heal that part by releasing that energy that they're holding on to. It's really powerful. We also review your data, the objective data, which gives points of discussion. We offer different interventions based on that. And like I said, post-process contraction. So the Oura Ring's included as well. I think it's a really powerful piece of kit. Gold standard sleep measuring, activity measuring, and recovery and readiness kit. So this program, whilst there's a 6-week intensive, there's 12 months access to the platform. And so you'll have ongoing access to the platform dashboard. We run different challenges throughout the year. We have meditation and sleep challenges coming up as well. 12-month access to Positive Prime, which is another piece of technology we've been working on through Transformative Tech, which is a consciousness hacking tool for priming your subconscious. It's like a vision board, but on steroids. You'll see here, like, images quickly flashing through your awareness. You can upload your own images into this technology as well, and you watch it for 3 minutes a day. I've used this tech to manifest some of the most amazing things effortlessly, but that's conversation maybe for Q&A. And you can see how consciously, you can watch it slower, I watch it fast. Consciously, it's hard to read what's going on, but unconsciously it's going in, so it's bypassing your critical conscious mind. Not only that, it puts you into a prime state, a positive state, an alpha theta state as well, because a lot of the images are nature, people smiling, Duchenne smiles, which activates your mirror neurons. And so it's really, really powerful technology for helping when we get to that habits and belief stage, to supporting the work that we're doing there. And then to support the integration beyond the 6-week intensive is a 6-month participation in the I Am Connected Underground Mastermind. And so the mastermind is essentially other people that have been through the program, high performers, up to 5 of them. It's like a brains trust. And so we're sharing key biometrics, biohacks, consciousness hacks, just supporting each other through self-optimization. So it's fast-paced, super impactful. So essentially 5 people within 1 hour each share. You've got your dashboards, you can share your dashboard. And the intention is to help hold you accountable and help support you over the next 6 months. So whilst it's like and you gain ongoing support and accountability from a tribe. Yep, connect with others on the platform. And so totality of the program is like 6 weeks, the different training modules, 6 weeks of the meditation program, daily coaching support and feedback, encouragement through the 6 weeks through the daily log. So it's an intimate journey of daily touch points. So it's 2 weekly catch-ups for an hour, one for the training module, one for a processing, a contraction. And then there's the daily touch points. So it's quite an intensive, includes the ring. Bonus is 12-month access to the platform, 12-month access to Positive Prime, and then 6-month participation in the I Am Connected Mastermind, the Underground Mastermind, which is off the back of the 6-week program. Also, the optional extra is the Muse Meditation EEG device. So really, like I said, it's whilst there's a 6-week intensive, it's a 6-month program with access to a community of other high performers for 12 months. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. And welcome any questions. If you're interested in learning more about this program, I will send out a Calendly invite, or if you're watching the recording, you'll see a Calendly invite below. But right now, I'm looking for 3 more participants only to join the program. And if that's something that's of interest to you, do let me know, because like I said, I've only got spots for 3 more people at the moment, because it is a high touch and intense program. That's why we call it a challenge, becoming exponential. Any questions? Thank you.
I think I have a question, Troy. If you can you hear me okay?
Gotcha, mate. Yeah.
You got me? Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. The ongoing fees, because there's an upfront fee. I think the Aura sometimes has a monthly fee attached. Is that
yes?
right?
So there's a month included, and then it's $5 a month for the Aura.
$5 a month.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Muse.
So
the Muse EEG.
Yep. So they're about $500 Aussie, Australian. They're you can buy a subscription for. They come with meditations, like guided meditations included, but you can buy a subscription for a whole range of other additional subscription meditations. I think they have different specials at different times, but generally it's between $50 and $100 per year for that. But that's optional. Otherwise,
it's always optional. So you can get the Muse and you can use it for its core feature, which is to measure the brain state at a particular time.
Yeah, so use it as a meditation tool as well.
Yeah, because you know, when you sleep and then you wake up and you go, well, I think I slept okay. But then when you look at a smartwatch or something, and then you can see, oh well, actually this is the detail. Is
Yeah.
the Muse a bit like that, where you can see things that you normally don't quite notice at the outset until you become accustomed to meditating and
Yeah, so
understanding yourself?
it is that. So looking at sleep, you can use it for sleep. It's built for, as a sleep tracking device, and it's got
What you mean the Muse is?
yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep, and it's got meditations that can take you into a sleep state. So that's one element. And I did like brain frequency is the most accurate way to measure the sleep states through the different brainwave states.
Yeah.
Aura does a great job of it through a whole range of other different technologies, from your heart rate through to, it's got like an accelerometer built into it, so it tracks movement. And so it's gold standard accurate. But say like the Muse, for example, is really, I use it primarily for meditation, and it really then is just helping to relate to the different states, because what it does is it plays feedback. It'll sound like rain, like if you're in a busy, like if you're in a beta, more of a beta brainwave state, and
You can hear it, can you?
yeah, so it plays audio, plays auditory sound.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so then it plays like rain. It sounds like rain, like because your attention's all over the place, and you're in more of a high frequency beta brainwave. But then as you focus on your breath, or whatever the guided meditation is, whatever the meditation is you're doing, you then, the brainwaves slow, and then what happens is it's like the rain stops and the sun comes out and the birds start chirping. So there's like birds tweeting, like tweet, 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 tweet.
Really?
And so then when you're in that more of a flow, relaxed, focused state, you're hearing birds chirping, and it's like birds are chirping. And so that's the neurofeedback to know I'm in a state. And so really, it's a really powerful tool to help, I think, initially build that relationship. In time, though, like you don't need a meditation device like that to meditate. You'll learn how to meditate, and it's optional because you can totally teach you to meditate without that. And I think you meditate somewhat already. Is that right, Zanny?
No, not very much. Mostly because I work or study or write long hours. So the things I do are very time consuming. Yeah. What that means is I don't make time for myself when I'm not tired to meditate. Usually if I try to meditate, I fall asleep because I'm quite tired.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
And for me,
that's quite common for people too.
It is,
yeah. Give themselves to others.
I think we don't prioritize meditation because, like for me, I consider that unless you take the time to build a relationship with the narrative, the noise, the thoughts and the emotions, then you're living in them and you're reacting to them. And it's kind of like then we're a slave in a conditioned experience until you actually take the time. And that's why it's so important. It's so, like, it's the most important thing that you could do each day is to take the time to sit and take control of your attention and away from that conditioned narrative, because someone else has conditioned that narrative, not you. And what I'm saying to you is you're able to build a relationship, pull your attention outside of that. And in that stillness is the things that you're looking for, is that connection to the energy, is that connection to that internal voice. And sure, you get drawn back into that story. And that's what we do with the healing, is we learn to build relationships with the parts that are contracting us into that story and heal them. And so that through the meditation, through the healing, we're able to just be in the energy more. And that's why meditation's one of the most important things you can do each day, mate. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Troy, I want to say thanks. It was a lot of information. I don't think I could commit to something like that. But are you going to have the recording? I think my daughter would really be interested.
So recorded this. I'll shoot it out. I'll shoot it out with a copy of the workbook as well. And yeah, there'll be a link to a Calendly if you or your daughter would like to just jump on a call. No obligation, just to have a chat around any of it. Like I love this stuff. I feel like it's just such important work now to remember who we are. Because like the technologies that I mentioned, they're becoming increasingly more sophisticated, and technology can be used in a way, it's representative of the level of consciousness that's wielding it, and it can do harm as well as it.
So I've got my ring, right?
Beautiful. Aura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I work in IoT, and it's so I work for Lowe's, and I work on computer vision, AI, and all that kind of stuff, machine learning. So I attended a lot of transformative tech meetings, and we had a chapter here in Boulder, Colorado.
Yep, Don.
And the guy that was running it, Dolcinos, he's a good friend of mine, and our kids know each other. But anyway, I used to go to those things, and I used to go quite a bit of the meetings. And so that's how I kind of got on your list. And I love all the stuff you talked about, but your particular program, I just don't have the time to commit to something like that right now. So I dabble in each one of those things just a little bit, but really to commit that much time. I think my daughter is someone that would be really interested in what you're talking about.
Well, I'm very happy to have a conversation with her. Yeah, so just by all means pass on the recording, and if she'd like to jump on a call, I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay, great. I gotta jump off because it's I got a 6 a.m.
Great to
I gotta get my sleep.
Great to connect. Say good day to Don for me.
Okay, do you know Don? Have you met him?
Yeah, we've had multiple conversations because I was heading up Australia, and he was doing the Boulder chapter as well. And
Right.
he was writing articles I was doing the blog for TransTech Global, and he was writing for it as well. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. But I think it's no longer around here. I don't think he's doing it anymore.
No, Nicole's sort of taking it a little bit more of a the structure was to activate individual chapters like Boulder, like LA, like Queensland, but she's no longer. It's a lot of work supporting regional satellites, and so just consolidated it more into a global movement as opposed to having individual chapters as well.
Yeah, okay. I actually thought it was him because I know that his I think it was his mom had some health issues, and so he was kind of diverted over there. So
yeah,
I haven't spoken to him in a while.
I'll reach out to him. It'd be great to connect. I haven't spoken to him for probably 6 months.
Yeah, tell him I said hello.
Will do. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Yeah, please do.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
Thanks for the talk.
Bye. All right. Thanks, Zdenek. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. I'll look at this and I'll get back to you on what I think of the